Welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. On today's episode, we got a little bit of a different template here for what we're doing. So we're doing a car review, but more specifically, we're doing a specific person's car review. And today we are reviewing this 2014 Camaro. And my buddy Paul here, which I know two Pauls do not make a right, but unfortunately we're gonna have to deal with that for today. But anyway, Paul here, we're going to go around this car and he's going to show you all about everything he's done to this car, because it's no longer a stock Camaro by any means.
By any means.
So we're going to go ahead and take a tour of the car, see everything that he's done to it over the course of his ownership of about, what, 4 or 5 years now?
About 6 now.
About 6 years almost, and see everything he's done. And then we're going to take a ride for this car. We're going to take a ride in this car and see what this car can actually do now, because it's a lot more than just looks. It's a 2014 Camaro
2SS RS.
2SS RS. And so let's just start with the stance of the car first, because obviously this is not stock stance.
No.
So what have we done to the car to make it look like this?
It is lowered on header coilover suspension, probably at least about 1 inch. It's what they recommend for the best handling. It's setting right now at 660 millimeters high, and that's what they recommend for best drive shaft angles, axle angles, so you don't have any binding coming up.
Yeah, and I mean, as we can see, just barely get 2 fingers between the tire and the wheel well there, so it is definitely a lot lower than factory. And how about tire size? What do we do with those?
It is not stock tire size. The front tires are actually what's comes stock on the car in the rear.
Okay.
Fronts are 275s, rears are 315. Wider tire on the rear, and also the actual wheels dimensions changed. Stock, it's 20 by 8.5 or 9 in the front and 20 by 10 in the rear. It's now 20 by 10 in the front and 20 by 11 in the rear to fit those wider tires.
Yeah, for sure. We got some big wide tires on this car now. How about these wheels? Because obviously these are not factory wheels. So what was the, I like the black wheel. I always like black wheels on cars. As you know, my Corvette has dark colored wheels. So are there anything special with these types of wheels that you did with them?
These are, the stock wheels I had were silver 20-inch wheels. These are still 20-inch. They are Z28 replica wheels.
Okay.
But just different sizes. The Z28s only came with 19-inch wheels, and the Z28 is the track Camaro.
Ah, gotcha. Very nice. Now, the other thing that stands out in this car, a lot of people notice up front, is these mirrors are not the standard mirrors.
Factory buy.
So what's the story behind these mirrors? Because you told me that these are from the concept of the Camaro, correct?
They're made by a company called Oracle. They do a lot of lighting and everything. These are replicas of what was on the original concept that was, I believe, shown in 2008 or 2007.
Right.
If you watch the first
Transformers, right?
The yellow Bumblebee Camaro will have these sleeker mirrors. The stock mirrors are wider. They're probably about that tall. And these also have turn signals and running lights in them.
Okay.
Which the car did not come with factory.
Oh, okay. Nice. I've also noticed that you have these side marker lights that are color
Yes.
coded to the car, correct?
Yes. Those are made by the same company that made the actual mirrors. They're called ghosted side markers. So they're factory colored, painted, and there's an LED strip behind them. So
okay.
During the day, it looks like it has no side markers, but in reality, it does have the traditional orange and red side markers that any car will have.
Very nice. So you got the fronts and the rears of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so now we're in the back of the car, and obviously there's a lot different here.
Yes.
So we have this new rear spoiler, and this is mounted to the factory rear spoiler.
This wicker bill is mounted to the factory spoiler, and it is also customizable where you can take out this center insert for different handling characteristics that you want if you're going to be doing road coursing or whatnot.
Okay, so this is really just to kind of keep the rear of the car planted to the ground as best as possible during high maneuver turns and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay, and obviously you have these smoked tail lights here.
Yes.
They're definitely not.
Yeah, these are not the stock tail lights. They resemble what came on the 6th gen Camaro. Since this is a 5th gen Camaro, they are sequential, and I just like the smoke look because it's such a dark color.
Right.
The clear lenses, the bright red lenses, I thought that the smoke lenses fit the car better with the black wheels, the black sides.
Absolutely, yeah. You already got black accents on the car, and I think I always like the smoked out tail lights, and so yeah, awesome choice there. Now, obviously, we're looking at a little bit different of an exhaust system, so let's start getting into the performance of this car. So let's start with what you've done exhaust back, and then we'll take a look under the hood and we'll discuss all the performance characteristics that you've changed on this car.
Okay, so for the exhaust, it has a complete exhaust system. For headers, it's got Cook's long tube headers.
Okay.
1 7/8 diameter, going to high flow cats, also Cook's, and then it comes out to a Corsa Extreme catback exhaust that is really livens up the sound of the car. And Corsa, people say, is one of the best exhausts for these because at highway speeds you don't get the drone that a lot of aftermarket exhausts produce.
Yeah, especially at that specific RPM range, you always get that really obnoxious sound that you just don't want to be in for a very long amount of time. So yeah, that makes a big deal on these long road trips. And actually, this long road trip, which you may know part of it, you may have seen this car in our previous episode. We had a trip to Kentucky for Camaro Fest 10, which you know, Paul was awesome to invite me out there, and we road tripped the Corvette to Kentucky, and you know, we got to see this car, you know, at the show, and his friends with his Camaros, and we got to see a lot of cool things. So if you haven't seen any of those videos, I'll go ahead and put them up in the link right here so you can take a look at those. In the meantime, let's go ahead around, let's pop the hood, and let's see what you've done under there. And then we're gonna go for a ride and listen to what this car sounds like. So now that we've discussed what has been done to the exhaust system on this car, let's take a look underneath the hood and go a little bit deeper and see what Paul has done to this car to make it sound so awesome, number one, and to dress it up as well. So what have we done under the hood here to...
All right, so performance-wise, really under the hood, besides the header's exhaust, it's got a Rotofab cold air intake.
Okay.
That's basically performance-wise for numbers. A lot of its appearance, we do have a GM strut tower brace, which will stiffen up the suspension.
Yep.
And also, right here is actually the adjustment for the coilover suspension for the fronts.
Okay, so you can adjust that however you need it for...
The rears you need to is underneath the car.
Right, right.
Other than that, it's basically dressing up or more of a preventative upgrade.
Of course.
So we've got a relocation bottle here for the window washer because it used to be right here. So you would, when you put windshield fluid in, you could spill it on the filter.
Right, of course. Good idea.
It's got the engine cover is completely different than stock. It's got painted and carbon fiber dipped, hydro dipped fiberglass cover. These are aluminum just to spruce it up. It was just a plastic cover. These, I believe, look really much nicer. And also for the fuse box cover, we do have a carbon fiber hydro dipped fuse box cover. Sticking with that whole black on
red, yep. Yeah, which is my favorite color scheme, so.
The other thing we do have an oil catch can in here.
Okay.
And a radiator cover just to take up some of the space in front of the engine so you don't just look down and see a hole.
Exactly.
As I was mentioning before, there was some preventative stuff that was done. I did put in a remote clutch reservoir.
Okay.
From the factory. They were tied in with the brake reservoir, and with hydraulics, the dirtier it gets, the worse performance you have. So now that's separated because the brakes, they are high performance brakes. They're Brembo brakes on this. the fluid does get dirty faster
Right.
than your standard.
And you don't want
cars.
that going into your clutch reservoir
Yes.
or your clutch line. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely. So now what about computer upgrades? You've tuned the car after you've done all this work.
Yes.
What kind of tuning has been done to?
It's a custom tune from a company, I believe, down in up in Maryland.
Okay.
It's very well known with using for the Camaros all the LS style engines. This has an LS3 in it, so they do stuff like with the Corvettes, with the LS7s, LS6s.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I did get this on the dyno before the full exhaust, just with the headers and everything. It put down 420 horsepower to the rear wheels and 419 horsepower to torque to
Wow.
the wheels.
So 420 horsepower, 419 torque to the actual wheels themselves,
Yes.
and that was before you put this exhaust system on the car.
Yes.
So we're probably looking more like 435, 440, more or less,
Possibly, yes.
possibly even a little bit more.
Yeah.
Especially with that tune in there. So yeah, that's a lot of power. And what was factory horsepower?
Factory to the crank was 426.
So to the crank, yeah.
So by calculations, going off of those 420 numbers, you're looking at maybe 480 crank, 500 crank.
Right.
So almost could be upwards of 80 horsepower over crank, stock factory crank.
Wow. And really just you're getting that from a cold air intake and a tune. That's not even really counting the exhaust system yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's very impressive. I mean, it's so much you could do with just the computer system in a car nowadays, just to eke out a little bit more power. And then of course, if you put those little bit of modifications on top of that, it's almost like an exponential growth when you tune it just right for those extra modifications.
Yeah.
So now that we've covered all that, I think it's time to take a ride and see what this car sounds like, number one, which I already know it sounds awesome. And number two, we'll see what the performance is like now after those upgrades, almost 100 horsepower extra from factory. So follow us, let's go take a ride. All right, so here we are now driving the car. I got to drive the car. And let's get some impressions of everything you've done. Such a short shifter. The Corvette's a lot further of a...
Now this does have a short throw shifter in it.
Oh, okay, so it does have a short throw.
Yes, it has an FTW short throw shifter, and on the shifter, it has an actual button. This car does have a line lock installed for going to the track to warm up the rear tires.
Ah, so we do have some, yes, to warm up the rear tires at the track. Yes.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Very nice. Sounds good in the car. Sounds good outside the car. Oh, and I really like these mirrors. So you were right, you were talking about how these mirrors were more convex, right?
Yes, so you do get to see, it makes it where there's very little blind spots.
Right, and I can definitely tell that. Like gives you a much wider perspective of what's around you, which is really, really nice. So otherwise the interior is completely stock, other than the shifter you changed out, the shift knob.
Yes, it does have a sound system in it.
Okay.
And little things you're not going to see now because it's daylight, but in here there is a LED strip now.
Okay.
That was in the concept Camaro, the dash ambient lighting.
Gotcha.
And as said before, this does have the 2SS package, so it does have the lower gauge panel.
Right.
Stock. It's got the leather seating, the heated seats and everything, and it does have a heads-up display.
Yes, I see the heads-up display. That's really nice.
So, which is configurable. If you want to push that circle button there,
Right.
in the center, you can change how it looks, what it displays. Now, this vehicle also, besides the short throw shifter, it does have new gearing in the rear.
Okay.
It's got 411s in it.
All right.
Which Factory, it was 354s.
Okay, so you went from a 354 to a 411 rear end.
Yes.
Which means a lot harder punch off the line.
Yes, faster acceleration, and you'll probably feel it when we actually get on it.
We're gonna get on the highway right now and feel those 411s in action.
And I also went from a clutch style limited slip to a actual like helical gear style.
Okay.
So it won't slip as much.
Very nice acceleration. Let's do a third gear pull here. Wow. It sounds almost like a NASCAR. You know how like NASCAR has like no sound, you know, deadening at all in their exhaust? Like that's almost how it sounds. Like when you're in that third gear pull, it almost sounds like a NASCAR going by you.
Yes.
Like, here we go. We'll do another one real quick. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I was curious, so I wanted to put it in overdrive in 6th gear and see. So about 70 miles an hour, we're just about 2,000 RPM. So really not too bad, even though you put the 411s in there. I mean, you're still getting a comfortable highway, you know, speed. It's like we talked before about the exhaust not droning. Like this is quiet.
Yeah, so you actually hear the gears over the exhaust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't really get a drone from the exhaust. It's actually quite comfortable. I would almost say it's quieter than my Corvette, and that is nowhere near as much sound from the exhaust as this car does. So this is actually really comfortable. So now I understand why you drove this thing 1,600 miles so far on this trip, because really this is a pretty normal drive. And I mean, really, you put the radio on, you never noticed that there was really any, obnoxious sounding.
Even in fifth is actually an overdrive gear in this.
Correct.
Too,
yeah.
So.
Yep.
But that Corsa exhaust, cruising on the highway, you barely hear it unless you hit the gas, and that's one of the things that people rave about is then you don't have that drone.
Right. Do you mind if I goose it a little bit?
You want nannies on or off?
We'll just keep it like this.
Go ahead.
I like it. I like it a lot. You know, I gave it a lot of hit. And this it didn't spin the tires.
No.
And I mean, it wasn't like traction control held it back.
No.
Like it was like, I'm gonna go full bore, and I couldn't really get those tires to do anything. I mean, they were just sticking and going.
Yeah.
And even into 2nd gear, I mean, those tires just went. So that is nice. You can definitely tell on those 350 how much more grip they have, versus that stock tire. But wow. These tires, are these tires more aggressive than the factory tires, or?
They're a better tire. They're still a ultra performance summer tire like the factories.
Right.
But the factories didn't last. The factories were Pirellis, which come on most car manufacturers, the high performance vehicles. The Challengers have them. Usually the Ford Mustangs have them.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like them. They were a little not as grippy in the rain, and you could spin them a little easier. But I've got these Continental Super Sports, Sports Compact or whatever on, and they are amazing.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, they didn't lose grip at all for that whole entire hole shot there, so that was really impressive. Well, anyway, that was a ton of fun. I'm going to thank Chris behind the camera. He was a real good champ trying to squeeze into the back of this car to take these good shots. And definitely thank Paul for, you know, bringing his car here, and also you know, helping out with the video and just getting to drive his car is awesome. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching this episode. I hope you liked it. And if you did, just, you know, hit that thumbs up below, you know, because Paul's in this video too. So, you know, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get some more people with some awesome cars, and we can take them for a drive and see these things that people have a passion for and love to drive, even if it's, you know, a daily driver. But anyway, I'd like to thank you again very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Check us out, techmotoring.com, on Twitter at techmotoring, facebook.com/techmotoring. We'll see you on the next episode, and we're gonna try this together. We're gonna try this together, right? You ready for this?
No.
Welcome to the future, and he doesn't watch my videos. And welcome to Tech Motoring. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
You expect me to remember your catch line?